Bucciarati tried to save everyone in his group, and that was a very commendable effort. You know, I don't know if this video will ever go out. I recorded this video immediately after recording the Diablo video, and I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to rant for a little bit. And this rant is about one of my favorite, side characters, Bruno Bucciarati. I just feel bad, because like whenever I think about Golden Wind, I think like Bruno was the blueprint. He was originally the one who wanted to liberate Passion, do all that, So that's why when Giorno came, it was just like a relief to Bruno. It was like, fuck, finally, this nigga's not completely broken. He wants to destroy this shit. He wants better for the children. Oh man, that is a huge bonus. And watching part 5, it's like if you think about it from the perspective of like Bruno, it's so sad. Imagine your mom just decides one day, I want to move to the city. Fuck this Fisher shit. Leaves your ass, leaves your dad. You do everything for your dad just so he's not indescribably unhappy, because that's the whole reason you stayed. Your dad gets shot doing his job. Not only does he get shot, he gets shot by some fucking mobsters. So after he gets shot by some mobsters, what do? A regular 10-year-old, he just fucking cries and shit. Bruno, no, he kills the two of them. Then he joins the fucking gang for protection. He didn't have a fucking choice. When you think about it, Bruno had no fucking choice. He ain't have shit. That nigga had a hope and a dream, and not even a choice, just a demand to go make some shit happen. Because if he didn't, his dad would have died in the hospital. He had to pay the bills. That's another thing. He was 15 paying the bills. What are we talking about? But I say all that to say, like, once Bruno started like actually building his group, almost all of them was, and I'm not trying to sound rude, but these niggas was charity cases. If I remember correctly, Fugo was homeless, skimming meals using a fucking law degree. Narancho was eating out the trash. Abacchio was about to kill himself. Mista was just Mista. That's the one thing I love about Mista. Like, that's why for the longest he was one of my favorites. He still is one of my favorites, but he was like my favorite Passion member, because it was just like, bro, this nigga just, his backstory wasn't even sad. He just killed 4 niggas with impeccable aim. But and you think about that, and I feel like that's why if you watch back like the Fugo scene when Bruno and everyone's getting on the boat and Fugo's like, yeah, I'm not going with y'all. All Bruno said was, what did he say? I think he said something like, you're a traitor, or you're excommunicated from the group, or something like that. I don't think Bruno was really that mad if Fugo didn't go. I think Bruno was probably internally relieved he didn't go, so he wasn't risking his life. Because again, Bruno saw the brightness in Fugo. He saw the happiness in Fugo. He saw what his future could be just off of meeting him for the first time. He saw how smart he was. Some people think it was just for the gang, but no, that was literally just like a human to human thing. I feel like that's why Bruno's so good at connecting. He understands these niggas. He understands the hardship they had to go through. Imagine if you, watching this video right here at fucking 11, had to find a way to not only make money to support a household, but also make enough money to take care of your sick dad, who ended up eventually, when Bruno was like, what, 15, dying from his injuries. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because I'll tell you right now, I probably couldn't do Nathan. Not shit. At 11, not shit. I would have made a lemonade stand and hope for the best. But that's like the reason I feel so sad for this nigga. Like, you look at a full life, Bruno lived a full tragic life. And in JoJo's, that's pretty rare. No, it's not. But like, full tragic, you didn't even have a decent childhood. You weren't rich. Fugo was at least rich. He hated his parents, and his parents were pretty snobby and treated him awfully, and he had fantasies of killing them, but he wasn't, but at least he was rich. Okay, that doesn't help that much, but he was rich. He didn't have to worry about poverty. Bruno chose to live in poverty, and he chose to get his get back for his father. But back to my original point. Bruno was so happy to have Giorno actually on the team because now you're not alone in your secret pot to make this a better place. You know what I mean? You're all a part of a gangster organization, but you're not alone anymore. At least now you can make your home a better place. You can't make all these other boroughs and neighborhoods a better place, but you can make your neighborhood a better place. You know what I mean? So that's why I was just always, I felt bad for him, but I also understood that his overall goal at the end of the day and his sheer willpower was to make his neighborhood a better place, which is why he felt so comfortable in trusting that to Giorno when Giorno actually told him his goals. That was that, because Bruno didn't want to be no gangster. You can't convince me that he did. He just did what he had to do. Like a soldier. That was Bruno's whole character arc. You're seeing Bruno Bucciarati go through this pain and become from a soldier to a leader, but in the truth was he was always a leader. He always was. When he started recruiting people off the street that he literally connected with and felt like they had a fantastic connection with, he was a leader. Because again, most leaders, especially gang leaders, they would have tried to kill their men had they defected like Fugo did. When Fugo defected, Bruno just left. And he left Fugo alone. You know, Bruno, it wasn't about the gang. It was literally about making things better. And that was what always killed me whenever I thought in depth about him, because it was always so fucking sad. It was just sad. But yeah, that's really all I got. If y'all enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time. Within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, there are a lot of characters I do feel bad for just because they were dealt a pretty shitty hand. But one I really do feel bad for is Abakio. I feel like he really had a fucked up life. From his backstory, we learned that soon after high school, he went straight to the police academy. And he thought it was going to be a very fulfilling work where he just wanted to help people, make people better, get crime off the streets, you know, all the typical shit, until he actually got out there and he was like, oh, these people fucking suck. I'm sorry, but if I'm trying to make things better and all I hear from y'all after I done made 5 arrests in the same area, all I keep hearing is you're not doing your job, I'm just gonna look at you like this. What do you mean I'm not doing my job? And it's also the fact that all the criminals or just the people tried to run out of any offenses they had. And it also adds to the fact that even if you did get it booked, 90% of the time, if you had enough money or if you had enough ties to the mafia, you were getting out. Now, this comes from one particular story that we get in his actual backstory, where Abakio, he was patrolling the streets one night and he saw a man and a prostitute working the corner. And he came up to them. Of course, he was about to book him. But then the man, he gave him a bribe. He said the girl was just trying to repay some of her father's debts. And Abakio was tasked with the tough question of whether he was going to take the bribe or just book him. And unfortunately, he took the bribe. He thought that by taking it, he was doing the same thing that still would have happened either way. If he would have booked him, he probably would have paid off some judges or some police officers to get him out, and he would have went back on the streets doing the same thing. So by him taking a bribe, it just, balanced out. But even then, that logic is still pretty fucking stupid, because how does that balance out? You're getting money. Anyway, one night, a thief broke into a house, and Abakio and his partner, they came into the house and they split up trying to find him. Well, Abakio found the thief first and realized it was the same guy who bribed him before. Now, the guy, he recognized him and he was like, yo, you don't book me, I'll stop. I'm not doing nothing else. And then he even turned up. He said, hey, if you arrest me, I'm going to tell everybody. And Abakio, he was swaying. At one point he said he was going to arrest him, but at another point he was just thinking. And he thought too much to the point where He let the thief get ready to draw a gun, saved by the grace of God, or really by the grace of his partner's life. His partner jumps in front of the bullet and fires off a few shots, killing the thief, but also the partner had a fatal shot, I'm pretty sure like in his chest or neck or something. Now, of course, stories and news of this broke out, and he was discharged from the police academy before accepting a bribe, but it was far deeper than that. It haunted him, the fact that his partner had died for him, essentially, for his own corruption, for his own wrongdoings. And it made him unable to be happy at any other point, like actually happy at any other point in his life after that. Like, it literally fundamentally changed him. It changed him so much to the point where after he joined Passion, which I'm pretty sure it's never really disclosed when exactly, but after he joined Passion, he was only really happy whenever he got a mission of very high importance, because he said it helped him cope with the pain. He didn't say those words, but you know, the death of his partner fundamentally changed him so much to the point where he doesn't know actual peace until the time Abakio dies and he sees his partner again. You know, I feel like Araki made him such a well-written character. That's really how I feel about almost all the Part 5 characters. But like, they're so well-written that their backstories are such a key, integral part of who they are. No matter which way you twist or turn it, you can always come back and find a reason for why they did majority of their actions. But still, he deserved better. He was a man who would rather uphold justice rather than letting the truth be twisted and contorted in any sort of way. And really, he just lost sight of what was important. That's why that final scene that we see after he's died, essentially, and this is the last bit of his conscience, talking to his partner, where his partner's just like, yeah, I never lost sight of the truth. I was always looking for the truth, not whether I was going to get a conviction or not. And we see Abakio literally be envious of that. He's envious of the fact that he lost sight of that. He lost sight of everything that made him want to become a police officer. You know what I mean? But that's also the part of the reason that makes him such a good character. Because you look at the way he acts with Giorno, it's as if with Giorno, whenever Giorno's like, I have a dream. Giorno's so convicted, so strong-willed. He sees so much of his young 18-year-old fresh police academy self in him. He wants to mold him into something more serious, something that knows your dreams and aspirations are most likely going to stay dreams and aspirations. Now, am I excusing Abakio for pissing in that tea and serving it to Giorno?
Brother, what's that? What's that?
Fuck no. Fuck no. I'm sorry. He was still like 23, 24 doing that. Come on, bro. But I can say he was rather trying to shape the young 15-year-old. Because again, Giorno, when we actually get Abakio's backstory, it makes so much sense why he started off with so much hostility towards Giorno. Because again, Abakio came in with a clear goal, a goal for righteousness and good and justice. He wanted justice for the people within his community. You know, a similar goal to what Giorno and Bruno both want. But with Giorno, I feel like it was more so he didn't want to end up leading Giorno straight to his death, because he saw how much Giorno essentially came in and he became the team healer. You know what I mean? When you look back at Part 5, a lot of the times Giorno's running like a support / attack role, but it's mostly support, and he's supporting really well. But you could say Abakio saw that. He saw how selfless he was, how willing he was to sacrifice towards the cause, and he instantly thought immediately of his partner who he let die in his own wrongdoings. And it could have just been rage or, you know, misplaced grief put on Giorno. But Abakio, I also feel like that's a part of the reasons why over the years I've grown to really love his character, because first watch I didn't necessarily enjoy him that much. In all honesty, I was very confused, you know, especially when the first time we actually see him, he's putting piss in someone's tea. Very confused. Very confused. But, you know, over time I had realized He is a selfless man who legitimately just lost his way on the path. And even when he lost his way, even though through his mood and his face and his attitude, he was still broken. He was still selfless in those scenarios. Like in part 5, when he does use his stand and he helps, he's the biggest help. But at the end of the day, he did get his ending, the perfect ending for him, where he got to finally talk to his police partner and tell him his mistakes was the cause of his death. And his police partner told him his friends were still proud of him and could sense his sense of justice as they walked into the distance. And man, was his whole death scene, those last 5 minutes we got of him on the screen, man, there was tears shed. I won't lie. But that's really all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything will help. So until next time, peace. Finally out of class, bro. It's spring break. Turn up. Yo, Jorno, what we doing, bro? We have a whole fucking, it's like 9 days. We doing, bro. Just like, going home, you know, see the fam real quick. Chill. I mean, I'll try to hit y'all up during time being, but you know, I'm feeling mad busy. Bro, you're always busy. Like, what the fuck do you have to do? Save Italy or some shit? Like, you would think you live a double life the way you always just doing some shit.
1 week later.
What news? Who? He's a diplomat. How is he a diplomat? And apparently he's passing policies to get drugs out of the state, the country. All of Europe. Oh, it's been 9 days. How did that? He said he was going home. The speculation, he's a what? Gang leader? Of what? Passion? I mean, I heard about them on the street. I seen a couple guys on the corner. Luca used to be over there, but like, what happened? Bro, I thought I was his closest friend. How could he keep this from me? And he ain't give me no money. He's at a peace summit in Sweden. How? He's not even in the government. He's 15. He's gonna miss the test. He's not coming back. What do you mean he's not coming back? He dropped out. He's gonna stop his education at 15. Is that what you're telling me? In the fantastic world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, there are a lot of stories, and within those stories there are side stories, and within those side stories there are what we call spin-offs. Now, me personally, I like to think of these spin-offs as semi-canon because even though Araki did not write them, he still worked on them in one way or another. Whether that be helping with character ideas or characters themselves or illustrating the whole spin-off, he helped. And that leads into the spin-off we're going to talk about today, Purple Haze Feedback. Now, this is one of my personal favorite JoJo spin-offs, and also if you don't know how many JoJo spin-offs there are and you want me to make a video on that, let me know. But like, there's 10 plus notable ones, with a good amount of them being sold in various places around the world. I'm pretty sure the United States got Devilman's Questions, which if they do, I'm going to have to check on that, because if they do, that will need to be added to my manga collection. Y'all see this manga collection right here? I need that. Purple Haze Feedback was released on September 16th, 2011, and it also has a video game. I just wanted to add that in. It's just something really interesting I thought about. It has a video game that was on the PS3, I think. But this light novel basically is about Fugo and what he did after the events of Golden Wind. Basically 6 months after the events, we already know Giorno's the boss, and Fugo is escorted to meet Mista, where Mista tells him, hey, we need you to kill this guy or we're gonna kill you. But the guy they tell him to kill is who will end up being the main antagonist of this story, and his stand, Manic Depression, which causes you to go virtually insane after ingesting the drugs because he's a part of the narcotics department, was said to be so powerful and was the sole cause of the issue within Italy with the drug problem. Because again, if you take it, you basically go insane. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't reread the novel in several years in full. I reread bits and pieces over the years, but never in full. At least not for a long time. But some of the things that I do like is definitely the newsstands that we see throughout this. Even though I mentioned manic depression in a sarcastic way, I think it actually is a very strong and very good stand. Like when you go to abilities for manic depression, it says neurochemical manipulation. What the fuck? Like one of its abilities is that it turns salt into opioids. And after, doing what you do with said things, the salt turns back 2 weeks later. So after it's in your body, it turns back to salt. It can also speed up your heart rate, increase how your body works and how it moves, only for it to break down, and do a lot more fun, very fun things. I also like Sheila E. and her stand Voodoo Child. Now, even though at first I thought her stand was kind of dumb, like, being real, if you can put lips on everything, what can that do? But the more you learn about her abilities and learn how essentially it's almost like a lasso of truth when it comes to the lips, you can learn that it's very versatile. For example, if it were to punch you, it could extract your deepest, darkest secret. Like I said, the lasso of fucking truth. But if you're someone who has a gag with it, like Batman with the lasso of truth, and how whenever Wonder Woman puts it on him, he always just says, "I'm fucking Batman. Can we not go through this shtick?" Some people can break out of Voodoo Child and just evade the ability. But that, again, only happens if you're just like a heartless monster. You just don't feel guilt for any actions or things that have happened in your past. So again, it's a very hard ability to break out of, but you could. But like I was saying, it's a very good light novel. You have mentions of the Stone Mask, you have mentions of the Speedwagon Foundation. You get to see more of Fugo's characters, something that a lot of fans crave after watching part 5. Because even when I was watching part 5, I wanted to see more of what Purple Haze could do. I wanted to see more of what was Fugo's character. Why was he always so short-tempered and hot-headed? And while, of course, this doesn't answer every question you can have about Fugo's character, it's a nice building block towards something more of a character you can get from him. You can get the sense that he's learning and he's changing and he's actually coming to terms with learning how to use his stand. Not only that, coming to terms with the state of his actions and the state of his past. We get revealed his past, which is even worse than the one we saw in the anime. Now, even though everything that happened in the anime still happened in the anime, we learned that he never felt loved by anyone except his grandmother. Literally, the only singular person in the world that he felt loved by was his grandmother. Now, this is where the light novel kind of differentiates, because when you look at the backstory, they have different reasons as to why Fugo did what he did to that professor. Now, if you watch the anime version, you know that the professor was essentially trying to coerce him into doing some very naughty activities, especially as a minor. But in this light novel, essentially, the professor starts making fun of his grandmother, and Fugo doesn't take that very kindly or lightly. And that causes him to smash a book over the professor's head, kicking him out and sending him to jail, thus where he meets Bruno Bucciarati. Now, I'm pretty sure in the anime he did not meet Bruno in the prison. Y'all can fact check me on that. But I know in the light novel, he did. But there's also times throughout the story where you also see him look back on his time with the whole group, the entire Passion group, and how he realized how his actions were somewhat cowardice because he didn't understand why they would go out their way to save Trish, nor did he want to do it. But he knew they did the right thing, causing a revolt, changing everything. Essentially, he knew at the end of the day, that was the thing he should have did. But he was just too afraid. Now, some of you always ask about Purple Haze. Well, why doesn't Fugo use Purple Haze like that? And the short answer is, he can die too. I don't know if a lot of people forget this, but Purple Haze poison, it's not like it doesn't affect him. It affects Fugo in full effect. He feels the effects. He doesn't want to feel the effects. And honestly, I don't think I can blame a 16-year-old kid who got put in jail for something bad happening to him. Either way, if you look at it either way, I can't do that. But in the end, by the end of the story, we do see Giorno finally see Fugo for the first time since Golden Wind and Fugo left. Where Giorno tells him that he always saw the super potential in Fugo and tells him essentially he did all this to help him get over his fear. He wanted him to overcome his demons, so he sent him on a death mission. But he survived. And by the end of the light novel, we see Fugo pledging undying loyalty to him. And that's it. Now, of course, I recommend giving this a read for yourself. It's definitely a really good read. I think myself, I'll probably end up rereading it one day. And who knows, one day this video may be remade. But that day will not come anytime soon. I will tell you that right now. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 2K, and we are very close right now. We're only 30 subs away. So, until next time, peace. Every anime has an iconic look. If I go to Dragon Ball, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting blonde-haired Saiyans fighting for their race. If I go to Naruto, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting ninjas. Some with the power of gods fighting against other gods and ninjas. Shit. If I go to Bleach, I'm getting a lot of shit, but all of it's explained. I can foresee it, and I know it's all spiritual pressure. Well, based off spiritual pressure. But when you go to JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, you know what it is? Stands. And you know what's even better than that? Stand designs. That's why today I've came to talk about the best stand designs. But wait, not in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I made 3 videos on that alone, just in general. But in Golden Wind, yes, I've done one for Gaiman is Unbreakable. Yes, I've done one for Stone Ocean. But Golden Wind needs love too, because their stand designs were completely insane. Let me know which part I should do next. But to start it off, I have to go with the most obvious one. King Crimson. King Crimson as a stand design is so beautiful because it encapsulates Diablo's mental so well. Even with the idea of him having a sub stand, again, encapsulates his mental. This man thinks of Doppio as an inferior, but his inferior, that's his right hand man. But it's not coincidental that his right hand man is someone who is inside his own body. And that's why they share the same stand. And Doppio can only use the arms. And I forget what it's called, but where he can see in 10 seconds into the future. But I feel like the stand completely encapsulates the character and the complexity within the character. Like, and plus it's menacing as shit. Imagine you are a new stand user, you just got your stand, and you see that poking out the corner. Hell, even if you're Bruno Bucciarati, the first time Bruno seen that stand for his own 2 eyes, he was almost dead. Like, for me, it's a situation like Killer Queen and Kira. It matches him perfectly. Like, everything about King Crimson matches Diablo. Even the points where he's yelling, like, for example, there are moments where King Crimson is yelling instead of Diablo, because that's Diablo's true feelings. He fucking hates you. So King Crimson, of course, fucking hates you, and that's what makes it even more menacing. And no matter if you're looking at the dark red and silver-ish colorway, or the lightish pink with a tan face and white colorway, he looks tough. He looks so tough. Like, just imagine having that peeking around the corner on your shoulder at all times. You would have to aura farm with a red suit like Diablo does sometimes, which is ironic because why is he wearing a red suit half the time, then the other time he's just shirtless? And like father like daughter, I have to talk about his daughter Trish, her stan Spice Girl. Now, one thing I don't hear often when people talk about the best stands, I don't hear people bring up Spice Girl often. I'm kind of baffled by that. Her stand design is so sleek, so smooth, that it just looks so fucking good. Like, to me, visually, obviously, it's one of the ones that pop the most just because of the bright ass color it uses. But it kind of reminds me of King Nothing in Part 8, and how both of them use very bright colors, and those colors highlight the details that are within her stand. Like, for example, she has a divide, plus, minus, and multiplication sign on her face, I believe. I'm about to check. Hold on. No, she just has a division and a plus sign on her forehead, but she also has on her shoulders plus signs. You know what I mean? Like, those details, of course they're still gonna pop if her stand was like black, but it wouldn't be the same. And it's also, I think, something for me that makes it better is when a stand visually matches the user. You know what I mean? Trish and Spice Girl that's one, literally. You know, visually, I can't think of many who have better visuals. Like Dio, for example, is a really iconic one. His stand and him visually makes everything about his look, his character, all pop, and it makes sense. You know what I mean? And honestly, as I continue this video, I realize that's probably the thing that, for me, when I'm talking about like designs and stuff, that matters the most to me. How does it look with the user? You know, a stand can look cool. I think a lot of stands look very cool, but to me, what really pushes it over the edge is how it visually looks in the anime at all times. And of course, if it looks visually great with the user, it's always going to visually look great. And Spice Girl is one of those that definitely do. I think the reason people don't bring it up like that is because it was only used in anime twice. Once when she awakened it, second time when they were fighting Diablo. So like, that's not enough. And man, oh man, for this last one, the issue with me is Part 5 has so many great stand designs that, like, I feel like at this point Araki was really in his creative bag. Like, honestly, I can't even say that. I feel like with stands, Araki is always in his creative bag, especially when he's designing them. Like, it's really the details he puts into it that makes you be like, oh my god, this is insane. Now, for this last one, I was in a conflict between two. It was Silver Chariot Requiem and Green Day. But for me personally, I think Green Day is one of the smoothest designs we've seen with a stand. And especially when you look at how it incorporates power, uniqueness, and just albeit personality. The personality of Chocolata, it just completely encapsulates it. First, if you go off pure appearance, it literally looks like an executioner, a medieval executioner from the 1500s. He has the hood over his head, he has the red eyes, he's ready to hit you with an axe and kill you, chop off your head in decapitation. Okay, I need to stop. This might get demonetized. I'm sorry, that was fake. This is all about anime, but you get what I'm saying. And it's on top of the fact of the colorway is so using shades of green to encapsulate someone whose entire power is just giving you fucking mold. Beautiful. Beautiful. And on top of the fact that its fingers and its shoulder has these air pockets to where it can release the toxic fumes, but that's incorporated to its natural design. Its natural design even incorporates the mold, just the smell just radiating off of him. You can see it. I'm pretty sure if I get the right PNG for the thumbnail, you'll be able to see the mold literally radiating off of him. I'm sorry, when we're talking about designs and when we're talking about details and things like that, I think that's cool as fuck. And it's on top of the fact, visually, it goes perfectly with Chocolata. Chocolata is a downright dirty, nasty, disgusting, despicable person. That's why his stand has to look menacing, despicable, like it's here for one job and one job only, to hurt you and have fun. And that's what it perfectly encapsulates. I feel like when Araki is making these stands, he's going for an idea. How can I make this character look humanoid, but also showcase the ability? And this is a case where he does both at an exceptionally high level. But that's all I got. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know we're on the road to 10K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace.
In JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, there's a common recurring theme of characters who often deserved a lot better than they got. A lot of characters just end up getting the short end of the stick. And today we're going to talk about one in particular. One that I really have grown to like over the years of just talking about or even rewatching or rereading JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Narancia. Now, Narancia was 17 at the time of his death, but in all honesty, we have to talk about his early life first and just how awful it was, because they did that man so poorly. I'm just surprised he was able to even make it out being homeless. Yes, he was homeless. But at 10 years old, his mother died of an eye disease, and his father did not love him that much after his mother died. Like, that's literally stated in the show and in the manga. His father was just an asshole. And he began neglecting Narancia. Narancia started not going to school, leaving school, skipping with his friends, going to their houses, stealing from restaurants. Like, they were doing a lot. It got so bad to the point where he rarely showed up at school by the age of, I think, 14. But Narancia also had a problem. Because friendship was everything he had, he believed friendship was the most important thing in the world. And that caused him to be easily manipulated. And that's how an older friend told him, hey, you should dye your hair blonde. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he did it. And then he got blamed for a crime he didn't do, placing him in jail for a year, juvie for a year. He then asked around for information. He found out his friend, quote unquote, did the crime and simply put the blame on him. Now, the crime was pretty heinous, honestly. He beat an old woman, broke into her house and beat her. I don't know what the thought process is for that, especially be like 13, 14, but he did it. But when he was 15, he was finally released from jail, juvie, albeit he was constantly beat up by the correctional officers. So he had a black eye, or his eye was really swollen. It was just always pretty fucking swollen. And that caused a rumor to start spreading that he had the same eye disease that killed his mother, causing his friends, when he got out, to not want to talk to him. But he learned that it was the same nigga that put him in jail that spread the rumor. And Narancia, bless his heart, believed that he was going to die of the same disease as his mother. Now, if I'm being honest, I would have ran the fade with that man so bad. He would have got snuck. I'm sorry. Why are you lying on me twice? Can you please just leave me the fuck alone? Like, Jesus, like, I'm surprised Narancia, even with his anger issues, never went back and tried to find him. Because I would have. Especially if I have a stand. Oh, yeah. He's chopped cheese. I'm sorry. It's over. After that, his tragedies finally kind of let up. He was homeless for a time period. Then he was found by Fugo. Fugo got him a meal. And I think Bruno called him an ambulance and brought him to the hospital. After that, 3 weeks later, his eye disease was cured. He was fine. But he wanted to join the mafia after he learned about what Bruno did. And Bruno said, don't be fucking stupid, you little shit. And told him to go back home. Now, Narancia, he did go back home. Until he came back, went to Popo, and passed the test. And just joined the group. So, Now we're finally at the event of Golden Wind. And throughout Golden Wind, Narancia, he does his thing. It was a varying amount of times he was needed, and some he wasn't. For example, at the end of the Risotto versus Diablo fight, oh my god, still to this day, Risotto should have won. Should have won. Them razors, them blades were cutting that man up. He was getting shish kebabbed against them. He couldn't do shit. But most of his fights involved members of La Squadra, except the moment where he almost didn't go with the group and stayed with Fugo, except he started remembering how it felt being betrayed and losing and abandoned by people, so he jumped in and joined. To which I'm pretty sure Fugo said something like, "You're gonna get yourself killed." Maybe he should have listened. But now we're finally to the last point of contention, one of the most painful points, at least for me, his death. Oh my goodness. Once they get to the Coliseum, Narancia is the first person to die. And he dies in a time of confusion. Everyone was looking for Giorno's body because Narancia's soul was within it, and then Diablo skips time. He's gone. I forget whose body he was in. I'm pretty sure he was hiding, but he skipped time. And next thing we know, we see his lifeless body somehow on the iron bars. I still to this day do not know how he got up there. I'm pretty sure the best way I could probably describe it, because based on the way King Crimson's ability works, this is probably the way it works. He used his sub ability to see 10 seconds into the future, saw himself somehow putting him on the iron bars like that, then just skipped 10 seconds so the action would automatically happen. But either way, that was a painful moment, and we see Fugo, safe and sound, still in Italy, just look up to the sky as if he knew his best friend was gone. Bro, he deserved better. There was no way that he should have went out like that, bro. I'm sorry. He clutched up a good amount of times. He had a lot of spotlight moments, but like, damn, he couldn't even get a fight or a moment against King Crimson. Just immediate death. But really, that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And honestly, leave a comment if you think Fugo deserved better. We're on the road to 5K, so until next time, peace.
You know, I was giving a comment on my last video essay, the one about JoJo's and masculinity, and you know, they said it was a great video essay, but they also asked me if I could talk about like the dynamics of different groups in JoJo's, you know what I mean? Like the part 5 group or the part 4 group or the Stars Crusaders. And honestly, I started thinking about the part 5 group. And then I started thinking about part 5 as a whole. And that's where I came to this video topic. Loyalty. Part 5 is a perfect representation of loyalty to me. 100%. And loyalty in multiple ways. A toxic loyalty and a more loving, nurturing loyalty. You know, because initially when I started thinking about the part 5 group, the first one I thought about was Bruno. Bruno's the head of the group. He is the one who essentially got all of them and put them all together. And all of them are loyal to Bruno for one reason or another. But in that same breath, Bruno is also loyal to them because he had took on the role of essentially an older brother and a nurturing figure to them. And that's really, before I start like connecting people, I want to talk about Bruno and Fugo really quickly. Because I feel like those two, when you talk about loyalty especially, no one ever thinks about them, especially because Fugo left. But you have to also think, right? Bruno in that time period, he was a capo. Most gangster capos, if their subordinate disobeyed direct orders, said that he wouldn't join, said that it was a death wish, said that all of you were going to die, most of the time they would have had that subordinate killed. But Bruno, he didn't. All he said, if I remember correctly, all he did was disown him, say you are no longer a part of the gang, and leave. I feel like that was a sense of a sense of loyalty to him, because we've seen Bruno, he doesn't like to leave loose ends. That's one thing about Bruno. But in that same breath, he has enough love for Fugo to where he realizes that he wants them to leave. He wants them because he knows this is a death wish. He literally just faced Diablo. He knows how tough he is. He knows most of them are probably going to die. So he wants him to leave. And him leaving, in a way, was honoring Bruno's teachings, at least to me. Again, this is subjective. At least to me, it was honoring Bruno's teachings, because Bruno, he wants them to live a long life. He wants all the people around him to live a long life, because he's already taken on the figure of protecting them when he brought them in from the streets. And Fugo, I didn't feel that what he was doing was disloyal necessarily. I'll get into that later. But I do feel like in part 5, that's where the word loyalty is most on display. It's most laid out in front of you. Not only through the part 5, not only through the Passion group that we follow, also La Squadra. You look at La Squadra, they are immensely loyal to each other. They had nothing, and they did everything for the boss. They were all loyal to the boss. That's the big overarching theme. They're all loyal to Diablo, but Diablo is loyal to none of them. Diablo is loyal to himself, and that's a play on his own character, because he inherits a body with 2 souls, meaning that he realistically does not have to rely on anyone except his physical self, because even if he's not out in public, he can still control the other half of his body by manipulating the other soul inhabiting it. And that's the whole thing. I was really thinking about that, because when I think about it, Doppio didn't know the full scope of everything he was entangled in. But I believe that, I've always said this, Doppio is evil, but I believe that Doppio, he was essentially, since he's always been joint to the boss, this idea of the boss for so long, he's never seen the boss from his own admission. He's always been joint to this idea of the boss for so long. Of course, he's going to have such a binding loyalty to him, and he's going to be the right-hand man. But that's another thing. I don't think anyone knew Doppio was even the right-hand man. See, that's what I'm saying, right? Part 5 is really, of course, it's a story about fate, and that's blatant. Araki couldn't make the fact that it's a story about fate any more blatant. But the other theme mainly is loyalty. Because even when I think about it, right? Because as I was sitting here trying to connect the dots, I realized the fights, these are fights of passion. You know what I mean? And when I say that, especially when you see La Squadra go against the disgraced Passion group, they're fighting both in the sake of loyalty, in a way. You know, at the start, the Passion group was fighting to keep Trish and protect Trish in loyalty to the boss, so that the boss could get his daughter back and protect her, at least under their assumption. La Squadra is fighting to get Trish because of their own people. One of their own was killed by the boss for even investigating and trying to figure out why they can't get more money, or why they can't even get more benefits. So you're following this story with passion. This story filled with passion. And I just think it's funny that one of the more ironic things is, even when you look at Giorno, right? When part 5 starts, Giorno does not necessarily have loyalty to anyone. His parents have disgraced him. He of course owes the mafioso his life getting better, but his parents, he doesn't talk about them. He really stopped depending on his mom when he was 3. His stepdad used to abuse him. He has no loyalty. But then he meets Bruno. And this is again where I say the loyalty lies, but it's also a similarity in goals, because with the dynamic between Giorno and Bruno, it is an understanding of we need to do this for the greater good. I also feel like that's why Bruno was so comfortable telling Giorno that he was dead and his body was just decomposing when they were in the car together, because Giorno knew once they even started, they were doing this for the greater good, what they believed would be better for Italy, their home, where they stayed, the people in the neighborhood, the kids in the neighborhood, the elderly. They believed it would be better. So when talking about their dynamic, when Giorno meets Bruno, this is the first time, at least that we know of, that he's meeting someone that not only holds a very similar and can understand the place that Giorno is coming from, like a very similar idea, and can understand the place where Giorno is coming from. He also holds the power to get Giorno in action to start his plan. That's where Giorno's loyalty lies with Bruno. But this is also the first time you're seeing Giorno have to be loyal to someone else. You know what I mean? And it's a very interesting thought when I think about it. And it's also, you can also link that to like Giorno and Abbacchio's relationship some ways, because with Abbacchio was he used to be a very outgoing person with a lot of dreams and goals and aspirations, but he never found someone to necessarily fuel those goals and give him the power to make a change within that city as a police officer. He found resentment and hatred, and through that he began hating his job and taking bribes, and that's how his partner ended up dying. And that's why Abbacchio is the way he is now. He sees dreams as dangerous, goals as fickle. He only focuses on the mission, what's at hand, the day by day. He's not focusing on the long term. So when he meets Giorno, and Giorno, he's obviously focusing on the long term. He obviously has a plan. He obviously has this big overarching goal. Abbacchio, he doesn't know if he can pledge his loyalty to him the way he does to the rest of the group, because he's worried that he's going to die soon, or he's going to get his dreams shattered and it's going to change him. Now, does this excuse Abbacchio pissing in Giorno's tea? No. Again, I don't know what the fuck was wrong with him that day. I'm sorry. He could have just been a dickhead, but no. That's like being extra dick. Why are you trying to make him drink fluids? That's crazy. He's 15. But that's another thing too. I can say he's 15 because I'm a civilian watching an interpretation, like a super loose fictional interpretation of a mafia member joining the mafia. But when I think about it that way, no one in the mafia cares about their ages. To them, you're just another member. You're another gang member, and that's a part of the mindset Abbacchio has. You know, when I actually start thinking about it that way. And that's why I feel like with everyone else, Abbacchio, he can be, pledge his loyalty to them and make sure they're protected with no second thought or anything. Because the rest of them, they have goals, they have dreams, but they're all focused on the mission at hand fully. They're not thinking to what's about to happen or what's going to happen. They're focused on what's going on right now in that second. Not to say Giorno necessarily isn't, but there is definitely times where Giorno is more so trying to plan things and he looks a little bit odder to everyone else. But even like, and then one of the reasons I also say part 5, it's the part of loyalty. You think about all the villains, all the people who were close to Diavolo, not necessarily, and not even ever seen him, but were in his somewhat circle. So Cioccolata, Secco, Doppio, Diavolo, if I remember correctly. And then the couple with Diavolo, I think Diavolo sent the couple. Yep, the couple and Carne, which was the notorious big user. Right? Everyone on that team. Think about it this way. Their loyalty, all of them, yes, they're loyal to the boss, but they're loyal for very selfish reasons, right? except Carne, which he's more. I have a more symbiotic interpretation for him, but that'll be a little later. Of course, starting off with Chocolate and Seko, they do it for the obvious freedom to operate where they have the freedom to hurt people as much as they want, the freedom to get their kinks off and get all that shit off as much as they want, and they get the chance to do it while making fantastic money. Of course they're going to join Passion. Of course they're going to become high members of Passion. But does that mean they're necessarily loyal to Passion, or are they loyal to their own goals? You know what I mean? With the couple, I'm about to, hold on, give me a second, I'm about to do some research again. With the couple, nothing is known about their past for real, but we know that they're loyal to each other, and that they all seek to do that. Those two, they seek to do it for each other. They seek it so that they can live a great life off the grid and kill people. That's what all of them do. The elite members of his squad, they're all people who do it for their own gain, not necessarily because they're loyal to a company. But you can also try to say that for everybody, but then when you look at everybody, there are loyalties within that group. When you look at the elite squad, I don't see loyalties within the group. I couldn't see Chocolata being loyal to fucking Carne and the couple. I can't see that. Especially when I think about the fact that I don't remember correctly if the elite squad has even seen Doppio. But I know the execution squad has never seen Doppio because Risotto did not recognize Doppio when he first saw him. It was like a system that was always designed to fail, because at the end of the day, at the top, there was no real loyalty. At the top, there was structure at the top, but all the structure was coming down from people that weren't the boss. It was coming down from people that could easily misscrew and edit his words, but by doing that, they would die. And that's how the boss would send messages. He would send messages through fear, essentially, like most mobs would, I would guess, would work. You know what I mean? But even still, he's sending messages through fear. He has no loyalty with him. No one's ever seen him. And then when you look at the inside, that's where all the loyalty lies, within the characters that aren't necessarily for the boss and for Passion. It's a contrast that you see develop as the part continues. You see the part as the part develops, you see the contrast between selfishness and loyalty continue to clash. Even when you look at the Chocolata verse, what was it, Giorno and Mista, and then the Seko versus Bruno fight. Seko versus Bruno fight. Seko dumps Chocolata as soon as he sees that he lost, or that he's not strong, and that he's asking for help. He says he sounds pathetic. There was never any real loyalty to him, even though Chocolata made Seko that way. It's never any real loyalty to him. It's loyalty to himself, because he's with the strongest. He's at the top of the company, so now he's just looking for money and a way to get his kink off. And while looking at the opposite effect, you look at Giorno and Mista versus Chocolata. They're using insane combos because they trust each other, they have loyalty to one another, and they believe that the two of them can beat this man. They're using insane combos, and Mista trusts Giorno so much that I'm pretty sure, I forget what happened to Mista, but he went down and Giorno was there alone, and Giorno was able to corner him using a bullet that Mista shot. That's through trust and camaraderie. But I do want to talk about Doppio, right? Doppio and Diablo's relationship in particular, right? Because I spent a lot of time earlier really thinking about that like dynamic. And when I thought about it, I had realized a few things, okay? For one, I found that Diavolo and Doppio's dynamic served a lot as someone who had what's that one syndrome when you get kidnapped and you start loving your kidnapper. Now, of course, I'm not talking about that syndrome one-to-one, but I do think Doppio somewhat fell into that, because at the end of the day, I believe Doppio did not have a problem committing these heinous acts, because I believe he was always well aware that some sort of very evil part lied within him. Like, so he had to be always aware. But I also feel that he did it out of pure loyalty for the boss, but also pure fear for what could have been done to him. I believe that Doppio, at the end of the day, loved the boss, but that was because the boss made it that way. Diavolo, having Doppio inhabit his body at the same time he did, was perfect for Diavolo. And honestly, I feel like I was finna make a connection to Fate, but if you want a Fate video, that's a whole nother thing. JoJo's has so many incidents of Fate, but that was perfect for Diavolo, because now Diavolo, he can operate at his complete worst. And I've talked about this before when I've talked about Diavolo and how he has the whole Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. But the whole thing with that literally is that now he can act in his complete worst, while not, there is no time limit to how long it takes for him to transform. All he has to do is tell Doppio to do it, and Doppio will, because Doppio loves him. That's the only person who's been with him his whole life. Diavolo having Doppio essentially kind of act like just how his stand works in general. He can linger in the background and just jump in at any point in time to give himself an unfair advantage. Like when we saw him he just slaughtered the fortune teller. He jumped in right on cue to back the fortune teller up before any cars come, put him in a dark alley, and make sure no one can see, and the fortune teller can barely see his face, but only sees this instant transformation that happens, right? Him having Doppio essentially solidified the idea that Diavolo would never need anyone, because he has everything he needs in his own body. And Doppio being of such importance to someone so powerful, with so much rank, with so much pull, it gives him this satisfactory boost knowing that he is the boss's favorite. He's his right hand man. He's who the boss goes to. He's the only one the boss goes to when there is a major problem that he needs cleaned up immediately by his own hands. So I believe that their relationship, it's built on one-sided loyalty, with the other side having a crutch essentially, so that they never have to face consequences officially for their actions in person. Doppio can do that. You need someone to go kill, sure, Doppio, run by this person, I'll go kill Abakio. Even though that was probably Diavolo who did like the full killing, it looked like Doppio was running by because it was a small kid in a soccer uniform. But throughout part 5, there's so many different and intricate trails of loyalty that are told and weaved in different ways. You know, the idea, there are some that are weaved under the idea that you work for me, so necessarily you should always be loyal to me because I gave you money, I gave you a job, you would have been still on the street because of me. But there's also this idea of, I don't need any of you though, so if you act out of line in any way, shape, or form, I will kill you. So there isn't any loyalty from me to you, but there should be from you to me because you're indebted to me. That's Diavolo's point of view. And on top of that, the way life always worked for him and the way fate always worked for him, it was a reasonable point of view for Diablo to think at that time, because he did. He gave all them jobs, places, and everything, and fate has never told him no. Everything he's ever wanted, he's gotten. So why wouldn't he think, y'all work for me, you're indebted to me? To me, it's clashing loyalty versus a stark selfishness that even in his last moments are still depicted when he starts body hopping and forgets about Doppio. And Doppio dies in Bruno's body as he calls out to the boss, asking to hear his voice one more time. Diablo never thinks or even mentions Doppio again at all. Throughout the rest of the series after Doppio dies, I don't remember him mentioning Doppio at all. That's what he was supposed to do. That's what Diablo's thinking. And Doppio, like I was saying, some sort of Stockholm syndrome. He thought that they had this love and bond and loyalty that was really one-sided and manipulative. But yeah, that's really all I got. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace.